I meet a fellow walking into a bar, and standing outside is a nun. And she looks at him and she says, "Before you enter this den of iniquity, think of your mother and your father." He said, "They're dead. They're dead in heaven." She said, "Well, think of the damage the alcohol is going to do to your brain." Huh? What are you talking about? Have you ever had a drink? And the nun says, "No." He said, "Well, how the hell can you stand there talking about it and saying drink is going to do damage to your brain if you've never had it?" I'll tell you what, I'll go in, get your drink, bring it out, give it to you, you drink it. If you don't like it, then you can talk about it. But don't talk about things you've never experienced. "What'll you have?" And the nun says, "I don't know." "What do ladies generally drink?" He says, "Gin." She says, "All right, I'll have a gin. But get it in a cup so nobody will notice." The fellow goes into the bar and he says, "Give us a pint of beer and a double gin in a cup." And the fellow says, "Is that bloody nun out there again?" The Pope, discussing the existence of God with an out-and-out atheist, starts off very correctly discussion, and as the hours go by, it gets more and more heated, and eventually the Pope turns to the man and he said, "The mom! Get the mom! And you, come here. You are like a man who is totally blindfolded in a dark room looking for a black cat that is not there." The fellow said, "With all respect, Your Holiness, I think there's great similarity between us both." He said, "What do you mean, similarity?" He said, "Well, as far as I am concerned, you are like a man who is blindfolded in a totally dark room looking for a black cat that isn't there. The only difference is that you found it." But a nun gets up in the morning and leaves and walks down the corridor. And another nun looks at her and says, it's a difficult thing to say, another nun, and says, "You got out of the wrong side of the bed this morning." And she goes on down, and another nun says, "You got out of the wrong side of the bed this morning." And this happens 15 times, and by then she's livid, and she meets the Mother Superior. And the Mother Superior is just about to open her mouth, and the sister says, "Don't tell me that I got out of the wrong side of the bed this morning!" And the Mother Superior said, "I wasn't going to say that. I was just going to say, what are you doing with the bishop's shoes on?" I am what you might call a practicing atheist. I'm quite happy to be an atheist because I think actually God likes atheists better. We never ask him for anything. We're not bothering him all the time saying, "Oh God, please help me, I'm on this thing." And as a practicing atheist, there's certain things that I travel around the world, and no matter where I go, somebody called Gideon leaves me this book to read. It's an Irish book because it says it all began at the beginning. There are certain things that, when I read the Bible, and I do read the Bible, that I find difficult to understand. I mean, if God has been there forever, what was he doing before he got to us? I mean, what was he out there doing? Was he sitting there going, bored today, what'll I do? I mean, suddenly from nowhere, he suddenly decided to create a world. I'll make a world, that's what. Make a world, yes, that's what I'll do. Rivers, seas, boom, mountains, boom, everything is there. I want a garden. I'd like a nice garden. Whack! Garden leave. Hate gardening. Need a garden. Ah, gardener, spit and dust. Adam. Hey! And he, Adam, never once says, where in the name of God did I come from? I mean, he's 40 years of age. He has no child, he has no recall. He doesn't say, how did I get here?
But he's quite happy. He just kind of trundles around the garden, working away. And God is looking at him. And he sees that animal's happy. I didn't put him there to be happy. I'll put a stop to that. And God, during the night, sneaks down like a thief and steals, doesn't ask, doesn't request, steals it. His rib. And from his rib, he makes woman. And Adam wakes up in the morning, he's a real thickie. He's lying there, and and there's somebody else, he doesn't say, where did you come from? How the hell did you get here? Where did you get those lumps? Just goes out and goes gardening. And God comes down and has a conversation with Eve and tells her that she can eat of any fruit in the tree in the whole garden with the exception of one fruit tree. He's talking to a woman. He actually tells her not to eat of the fruit. And then when she said, which tree can't I eat? He said, that one over there. He points it out to her. And when he goes and hides, and she sneaks up to the tree, and a snake comes down and has a conversation. A snake. Now, if I see a snake, I'll back off. One starts talking, I'll crap myself. And the snake actually convinces her to eat the apple, and she eats the apple. And when she eats the apple, she learns shame. That's what happens when you eat apples. Now, she's not ashamed that she's disobeyed God or that she's eaten the apple. She's ashamed of one part of her body. That's all. She becomes ashamed of that area of the body. Now, why that area? Why not her elbow? Her nose. Do you actually realize that if Eve had been ashamed of her nose, every woman in the world now would be ashamed of your noses? You'd all be sitting here tonight with little nose knickers on. Men would be in nightclubs watching totally naked ladies with G-strings on their nose. Take them off. Oh, I saw a nose. Oh. And this is the book. This is the book that you'll go into court and place your hand upon. And swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Little fella dies and goes to heaven, and St. Peter said, would you like to have a look around heaven? And the fellow, yeah, I would, actually. So they're looking around heaven. And he said, who are those people over there? He said, oh, they are the Muslims. They are Muslims there. And over there we have the Jewish people. And these are Anglicans and Hindus, Baptists. He said, why do you have this big wall here? He said, behind the wall, you see, we have the Catholics. He said, why do you have the Catholics behind the wall? He said, shh, they like to think that they're the only ones here.